This is Marketing Uncomplicated. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Marketing Uncomplicated. I have Ellen Mitchell with us, who's a dynamic real estate professional with over 25 years of experience. Ellen is dedicated to guiding clients seamlessly through her real estate process. And we'll dig into that because she has an amazing story as to how she self-branded herself. Since becoming a licensed realtor in 1998, Ellen has specialized in probate sales, senior relocation, divorce, and general real estate, with the goal of being her client's realtor for life. As a certified probate real estate specialist, CPRES as they acronym it, and holder of the CDPE and the REO, and we'll get into those certifications, Ellen is well equipped to effortlessly navigate Miami, Fort Lauderdale's probate system. With a trusted and expert team of attorneys, financial planners, lenders, and more, Ellen holds a competitive advantage in facilitating complex real estate transactions. Actively involved in the South Florida community, Ellen holds leadership positions in real estate associations and participates in charitable organizations. In addition to her professional commitments, Ellen enjoys spending time with her family and her beloved Doxies, who we might hear down the road a little bit into this interview. So welcome to the show, Ellen.
Thank you. Hopefully we will not hear them, but you never know. You never know.
They might be like, hey, Mom, I need your attention.
It could happen.
Yeah. So, Ellen, I'd love to begin the conversation and talk about how you have self-branded yourself, under being a real estate agent within Remax, because I think it's a very special story and it kind of coins who you are really, and I don't want to say the tagline, but who you are really in the market and how you connect with your potential clients and your clients along the way.
Thank you, Sasha, and thank you so much for having me here today. It's always good to talk to you, and I really have been looking forward to this. So I did start really niching in probate, guardianship, senior relocation, and out-of-state sellers several years ago. And I do so much more than just the marketing and sale of the property that I had a client say to me, he's like, Ellen, you do everything for us. We would have had to take many additional trips to Florida if you hadn't been there. And you're really like our boots on the ground. And I said, I appreciate that, but I feel a little too feminine to be your boots on the ground. I'd like to be your heels on the ground. And so that just stuck. It just seemed perfect. So my slogan is your heels on the ground. And it just, I guess, if the shoe fits, pun intended, wear it.
Yeah, totally. I love that story because it is truly appropriate. If you ever meet Ellen in person, you'll know. But digging in just a little more in terms of your process and how you work with clients and how you onboard them, and really highlighting on your differentiation point, I want to talk a little bit about that because there is the concept of working with clients and kind of getting the job done, but then there is the differentiation of working with clients and then going that extra mile, which I think you do probably 150% of the time with everyone that you work with. So let's talk a little bit about that process, because I think that's what makes you unique and kind of how you've carved out your efforts within the Miami Fort Lauderdale area.
You might hear the dogs now. Yeah. Thank you. Interestingly, a lot of my business comes from attorneys, from probate, guardianship, and elder law attorneys, because they work with clients and then they go through the life cycle and they have the need for the clients that they're working with to go through a real estate asset attached to an estate. And the reason that they choose to work with me, or at least what they tell me, is usually a realtor working in a probate sale will be calling and saying, when's it going to close? When's it going to close? When is it going to close? But they don't understand often the probate process, and they don't bring any additional value to the attorney and their clients. And so I've really it's an area of the real estate market that I just love. When I'm working with the attorneys, it's always the relationship that's going to get you in the door, but then it's your performance and really being able to do the job that's going to get you those relationships and people to work with you again and again. And so I do a lot of unexpected extras. For example, a lot of my clients are the adult children up north, and perhaps mom retired down to South Florida, and now she's passed, and they unfortunately Either they have to move mom into an adult living facility or independent living or up north to be closer to the adult children, or there's a death. In any of those cases, I usually almost always ask, has anyone changed the locks on the door? And they're like, what? What do you mean? I say,
Yeah.
well, mom lived there for several years. She gave keys to people over time, and word spreads very quickly, especially in a condominium complex. And now everyone knows the property is vacant. And so people that have keys, they don't look at it as stealing, but it is stealing. They'll
Yeah.
come in and they'll say, oh, Myrna had always promised I could have that beautiful lamp or that beautiful vase. And she had said that one day it could be mine. And people will come in and take personal property. In their mind, it's not stealing, although it is stealing. And so by rekeying the property and only giving the keys to the people that need it today, we're mitigating problems from the very beginning that someone can't even anticipate because they're going through such a difficult time. Changing the locks on the door is the last thing they're going to be thinking of.
Yeah.
Another thing they're not going to be thinking of is, has anyone gone in and emptied the refrigerator? It's just not something that you think of. So I'm often over at properties, meeting locksmiths, having the door locks changed, emptying out the refrigerator. And then they have a condominium, often a condominium or a home full of personal property. And was that yours?
Yeah.
Yours has a louder,
Yeah.
it must be bigger than mine.
Yeah.
Um, Personal property and furniture. And so
Yeah.
usually the family comes down and they'll take the items that they want. And if they have items that have value in it, we can bring an auction company in or an estate company, and they'll come in and they'll look at the artwork, they'll look at china, crystal, silver, items that have value, and they can make an offer to the family. A lot of times there's no financial value to the things, but they still have use.
Yeah.
And so we can bring in a 501c3 instead of calling like 1-800 got junk and have everything go into the landfill, which is a shame. It's a shame for the environment. It's a shame for people who could use those things that won't have access to them, and there's no benefit to anyone. We can call in a 501c3 and they'll remove all of the personal property, the dishes, the silverware, the pots, the pans, the books, the clothes, everything, and they'll resell it at a small resale shop, and the proceeds benefit children with autism education
Yeah.
because the founders of that nonprofit, that's where the proceeds go. And that way the owners, their items go on, they get a tax deductible receipt, the things don't go into the landfill, and people at the lower end of the wealth gap have the opportunity to purchase things that they need but may not ordinarily be able to afford. And it
Yeah.
saves the sellers a lot of money, in addition to having to pay a 1-800 got junk or some company like that.
Sure.
So it just feels good. And it's all of those unexpected extras because I've been in South Florida since 1990 and have developed great relationships with a lot of people that I can anticipate all of the things that are going to come up. And I have those relationships in place, which just makes it a much smoother and easier process for the families. It's one thing that they don't have to think about.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I mean, already within everything that you've described, I mean, two main key takeaways from this is the educational aspect of what you give to your clients, from educating A to Z as to what they're probably not thinking about. They've probably never wanted to think about this. So it's going through the list, if you will, of all the little details of things that they need to take care of. So education, and then it's really kind of the feel good aspect of like how you're removing property, how you're like working through things. And actually, there's three. It's the networking that you have built along the way that really gives you the upper hand to know who to connect and who you need to contact to kind of move everything through very smoothly and swiftly. Correct?
Thank you. Yeah, and that's always my goal is, I can't take their grief away. I can't take away the loss of a loved one, but I can make things easier for them and take some things off of their plate. And also it takes a lot off of the plate of the attorney, and I'm not billing them per
Yeah.
hour. I
Yeah.
don't charge additional for all of those services. It's just my niche. It's part of the service that I provide.
Yeah. Now, Switching over a little bit into some gears, because I know that you have always been on top of, the marketing aspect of how you're getting your name out there, how you're really kind of, utilizing the platforms and the tools to like better serve you. And I know that, you recently started to do a lot of content for your social media channels. And I know that you're very heavy on organic SEO. And I think it's important for us to talk about the two, because it's, and I know you would probably say the same thing. It's not one without the other, and it kind of supports each other, which marketing is all encompassing. But, coming from you, I think it would be useful for other realtors who may be listening in on this, or maybe even other people who are self-service, or they are in a service industry where they're serving potential customers and clients, where this can kind of help them, one, generate awareness, and then also get the support from a local standpoint. So let's talk a little bit, because I know SEO was first for you, and then you started to build out really a robust system as it relates to building content for yourself.
Thank you. Well, I would say, first of all, for realtors, I mean, as you know, being in South Florida, every other person has their real estate license.
Yeah.
So, as a realtor, I think creating a niche for yourself, I mean, mine is probate, guardianship, and senior relocation, but whether it's working with first time home buyers, move up buyers, people in golf course communities, boating communities, equestrian communities, whatever it is, but not being everything to everyone.
Yeah.
Not that I don't do general real estate, but because I do, but really having a specific ask and becoming an expert in an area is going to differentiate you from everybody else. And probably the first thing that I did was my Google My Business page.
Yeah. Before you continue, Ellen, I really want to hone in on that point, because
Mm-hmm.
I talk a lot about how marketing is very templatized and it's transferable across industries. And you make a really good point about having a niche and having and really focusing on one thing, and not kind of like spreading yourself thin across the board. Not that you can't do it. And this relates to also products. If you're about to launch a product in the market, focus on one thing, really push that in a good direction, versus having a multitude in the beginning. Because once you get that product market fit, and once you get that affinity with your customers and awareness within the market, then people will start to come. So let's go through the Google My Business now.
Thank you. Absolutely. So the Google My Business, which I know is called something else now. I know they changed the
Yeah.
the name of it, but it's a free tool that everyone can use. And if you don't, if you're selling products and you don't have a storefront because you're shipping, you can always just not show an address. I use my office address for my Google My Business. So just first going on, creating that account, having them send you a postcard, which did not work for me. I went through that several times. And finally, Google has a program where they can call and you can video from
Yep.
your location. So I was
Yep.
able to show, this is my office, here's the computers, and they had me walk around to just verify that I was where I said that I was.
Yeah.
And after that, using it and maximizing it. So filling it out completely, the information, making sure that my information everywhere was the same, the way that I phone number, name, business name, address, everything was consistent across all channels, uploading multiple photos, uploading videos as well, and then reviews. Being really good about asking. I think I have 90 something. I know I have 90 something 5-star Google reviews,
Yeah.
but just being really intentional about asking for those and following up. And also telling other business professionals that I work with, asking them for a Google business review and saying, Sasha, do you have a Google page? I'd be happy to do a Google business review for you, or any other platform that you're on. And usually, conversely, someone will say, yes, I would like this. Is there something I can do for you? Yes, I would be great if you could give me, I'm really working on my Google reviews.
Yeah.
And then I'm continually posting content on it. So whether it's I'm taking a new listing and I'm uploading photos of the new property, but not just having it and forgetting it, but having it be organic and live, and always, always adding content to it. That's been, I would say, the biggest SEO and no cost thing that I've done and continue to do, that continues to bring me benefits.
Yeah, and you're right. It's not a set it and forget it for Google My Business. And I like how you are adding your actual properties on there from a Google My Business standpoint, because people are gonna, it's your service, it's what you're doing, and that is a living, breathing platform that you can constantly be updating to push new content, existing content, past content, and so on. And then also, like you said, to be diligent about asking for these reviews, because it's crucial. Everybody makes a decision upon when it's a service industry upon the reviews.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing that I did, was really concentrate on my Google My Business and made sure that everything across all platforms was the same. And it's surprising, but I've been in business since 1998. And so logos have changed, branding has changed, photos have changed. So just making sure that they were the same and consistent among all platforms was, kind of a no-brainer, but something that if you don't think about, it's easy to ignore.
Yep.
So, and as you know, I've started really getting into video, and people kept pushing, Ellen, you've got to do video. You've got to do video. And my hesitation was, that's not what I do. I sell real estate. I help people. I problem solve. I'm creative. I can think outside of the box.
Yeah.
But video, and someone said to me, they said, Ellen, no one's expecting you to be Diane Sawyer. They're just
Yeah.
expecting you to be Ellen Mitchell, the realtor. So just
Yeah.
be who you are, talk about what you do, what you know, and you're going to resonate with the people that are looking for what you provide and who just your energy vibes with their energy.
Yeah.
And so I started doing that, and it's been really, really good. And just the consistency, I think, in the colors, the branding across all platforms. And I haven't yet, I'm not on TikTok. There are things that I'm not on, but Google, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, those are the places that I'm just very, very consistent.
And again, not spreading yourself across too many platforms, but ensuring to grow on a few versus, going out and spreading yourself all over. So the type of content, as you say, I'm a realtor. I'm not somebody who produces video. So let's talk a little bit about the content, because I think this ties back to the original conversation that we were having. When you're onboarding your clients, you're educating them in terms of like next steps. I've seen some of your videos, and they are very educational in format, which I think is huge. And these days people don't read. Videos are really prominent in terms of, our attention span today. So let's talk a little bit about the type of content that you deliver.
So I really try to look at and think about the questions that people ask me in everyday life. You know, how do I do this? I just inherited a property. I don't know what to do. My mother is older. She's starting to fall. I'm concerned about her living alone. I don't know that we can afford to have her in an adult living facility or independent living. What are our options? And I recently, with a family member, a close family member of mine, who are very middle class, solidly middle class, and they needed to move into an adult living facility. And most people would think, based on their income and their savings, that they would not qualify for Medicaid, or that a Medicaid facility would be subpar. And that's such a misconception. Um, we did work with a Medicaid planning attorney, and they really drove the bus. I reached out to a probate attorney that I knew, and I said, I've heard about Medicaid. I know it's a good thing in some situations. Who can you recommend? She recommended someone. We had a call with that person. She went over how everything worked, and within, I would say, 60 to 90 days, they were approved for Medicaid and moved into a beautiful, beautiful facility that they were able to afford with the monthly income that they get through Social Security and a pension. And the additional, it was $1,850 per person, so $3,700 per month for Medicaid. That made the difference between them being able to afford to go to a really nice place or kind of a substandard place. Plus, they were able to legally shelter some of their monies and be able to pay the difference. So I think about the things that people ask me. I have a lot of older family members that I've been through this process with, not necessarily Medicaid, but aging and moving,
Yeah.
and just trying to create content around answering questions that people have. And a lot of times just the questions they don't even know to ask.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like bringing alive like frequently asked questions that would be on any website. And I think that it could be a resource. It's really a resource for somebody. And I'm assuming through your YouTube channel, you can kind of subcategorize the different videos so that people, don't have to go to, the original one that your very first video, but it's like, what are the categories that you can kind of like break up so that people have ease of use to kind of go through the whole process. It could also maybe be used as, uh, maybe you've thought about this in the past in terms of, onboarding, like before they meet you, or like, as you're bringing them in. And I don't know if you use it for that type of purpose, or it's just purely educational for people who haven't yet worked with you.
I do both. And like, for example, I was introduced to another probate attorney this week. And so in um, being introduced and setting up an appointment, I put a link to my YouTube channel and said, here's some
Amazing.
information about me and what I do, so that they would know just a little bit about me before we met.
Familiarize. Yeah.
And exactly. So,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
but I
great.
do, the main goal really is for it to be a resource for people, because everybody's situation is different. There are so many different, as many different people as there are situations. So
Yeah.
I really want it to become a repository of information that people can go to. It's a free resource, and to, get the information that they need.
Yeah, totally. Ellen, tell me a little bit about let's dive into a case in terms of like one of the, maybe not necessarily, I don't like to use the word toughest, but what was a complex, you know, case, or somebody that came to you and it took a little time to like work through it, but as you said, you were thinking outside the box, you were creative, how you I want to just dig into a little bit about how your process works, because I think it's important for the audience to hear that it's not just a traditional one lane process, and that, as you said, every situation is unique, every situation offers itself up to not necessarily go in that one path, but to be open to what is coming your way, to support and kind of bring all the tools that you need in place to kind of make sure that it works and it's the best that it can.
Thank you. I'm just going to send my husband a text asking him to look at the dogs. Sorry.
That's okay.
So I had a really interesting scenario that happened about, it's got to be about 9 months ago now. I had a probate and estate planning attorney that I work with quite a bit, and he contacted me. This woman had contacted him. She had gotten a letter from one of these investors,
Yeah.
and it said that she had inherited property and that they were willing to purchase the property for $60,000. There were multiple heirs, and they would take care of everything. She didn't even know that this had happened. It was her great aunt who lived in Florida. She lived out of state. I guess they weren't especially close because she didn't know that the great aunt had passed.
Yeah.
And the way that the investor found out about it was that the condominium association fees stopped being paid after she died. And usually the associations, they will start foreclosure very quickly, often within 90 days. And so the foreclosure action was started, and the investor found this through the foreclosure action that this is going on.
Yeah.
So she was thinking of, all right, let's just get it sold, get it. And the attorney said, wait a minute, $60,000, it might be a good price, but we have no idea. Let me call Ellen and see what is the place worth. And so I looked, and it was worth around $300,000. It's a condominium, so it was without going inside. I said it could be more or less. I have no idea about the upgrades of the unit, but in the $300,000 range, certainly well beyond the $60,000 that he was offering.
Yeah.
Turns out that there were 18 heirs. which is very, very unusual.
Yeah.
Some of the heirs were incarcerated, and some of the heirs were saying, let's just take the 60,000. And if you take 60,000 divided by 18 people, it's very, very
Yeah.
little. But to them, it was like some of them who were, I mean, incarcerated or really living hand to mouth. It was like, this is found money. Let's just take it and be done.
Yeah.
So I said, why don't you let me go over to the condo? I can meet a locksmith there. I need written permission from you to enter the condo because I don't own the condo. And so they gave me the written instruction. I contacted a locksmith that I work with. We met at the property and went and started opening the door. And someone saying, hey, hey. We're like, this is supposed to be a vacant condo.
Yeah.
My son, who I'm mentoring and works for me, he was like, oh my gosh, are you sure we're at the right place? Like maybe we're. Well, it turned out that there was someone occupying the property, that the association, I've never seen this before, the association in this case had rented out the property, was collecting the rent, but was still not paying the maintenance. And that's why it went into foreclosure.
Yeah.
So I don't want to call it fraud, but it wasn't really kosher for them to be renting out the condominium and then not even paying the expenses of the condominium.
Yeah.
And so we were able to get, not me, but the attorney, when I notified him and the family, there's someone in the property. They said that they rented it from the association. They looked not like squatters, like they were living there, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the attorney was able to get the people out of the property, and the attorney dealt with the association. I went in and we were able to get the property cleaned up. All of the aunt's personal property was long gone. The association had just gotten rid of all of it. And we went ahead and marketed and sold the property, and it did sell in the $300,000 range.
Yeah.
So here the family was ready to just let it go. They didn't even know about it, and they wound up getting, you know, multiples of what they had been willing to settle for in the beginning for a property that they didn't even know that they had any rights to.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. I mean, sort of full circle in terms of,
That's weird.
really kind of saving, not just saving the property, but, getting what you can get from the property as best as you can, for the full support across the board in terms of, like, as you said, they didn't know. Some people, needed the extra cash, so it's acting fast. Well, we need this right now, let's just move forward with the process, and not really kind of knowing what they could get out of this versus, acting quickly. Again, it goes back to education and really, supporting those that need to understand, what it is that they could potentially get out of this versus just kind of acting right off the bat, right?
Well, and kudos to the probate attorney that handled this. He's an attorney that I've worked with for several years, and I have so much respect for him because dealing with 18 heirs and having 18 heirs have to sign is not an easy thing. And he really was masterful in the way that he worked with that. So I also have people contact me and they'll ask if I have, if I can refer them to a probate, guardianship, or elder law attorney, which I do all the time. And it's not one size fits all. Some people, maybe they speak another language and they need an attorney that's going to speak to them in their language, or there are so many different things. It could be an international seller that's outside of the country. There are tax ramifications, and you need to bring in a tax expert.
Yeah.
So I really like to be like the hub and be able to refer and have a great team behind me to refer my clients to.
Yeah.
And it's not like I refer everybody to the same person because everybody's situation is different.
Yeah, it's unique. It's almost like, I'm a very visual person, but it's like you're the center of the octopus and you have all these like tentacles that are like out to really kind of support that system that you're really pushing forward, which I like to.
I've never heard that. I always think of myself as the hub and the spokes, but I like
Yeah.
that, the octopus and that's
The
good.
tentacles, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
For those who are visual out there. Um, so Ellen, this has been really informative, and I love that we can really leverage what it means to build a personal brand. Like even though you're working for another company, like as large as a real estate company like Remax, but you're able to individualize yourself within that. So what I want to be able to hear from you, if somebody is coming up into the ranks of, wanting to do what you're doing, I mean, what are the things that you wish you knew today that you could have started early on?
In terms of marketing or in terms of real
Both
estate or
marketing and real estate.
so I was very fortunate in real estate that I had a tremendous mentor, and I would give a shout out to Gary Smith, who's my friend and lifelong mentor. But I worked under somebody, and he really taught me everything. Because when you get your real estate license, you're on your own. I mean, you
Yeah,
work under a broker, but you're on your own. And everybody else in the office is not necessarily looking and rooting for your success. It's sales. Everybody's looking for their own success.
themselves. Yeah.
Right. And so by the time I went off on my own in 2000,
Yeah.
I knew how to do everything. I started administratively in real estate in 94 and I got my license in 98.
Mhm.
So knowing how to use the MLS, enter listings, set appointments, write listing agreements, negotiate contracts, what are the norms in your area regarding inspection, appraisal, as is, not as is.
Yeah.
All of these things, it's a learning experience. And I had the benefit of working under somebody and getting to see the day to day so that when I went out on my own, I was really knowledgeable. And so I would encourage everybody to get a mentor, join a team, and people will say, oh, but then I only get 50% or I only get X percent. Well, 100% of nothing is
Yeah.
still nothing.
True.
So for me, it was wonderful to get an education and be compensated at the same time, as opposed to having to pay to be, to
Yeah.
pay to be educated.
Yeah.
So that's big. And then in terms of
The marketing.
marketing, I see people, they try something and they don't stick
Wait.
with it.
Yeah.
So it's like whatever it is, if you're going to dedicate yourself to getting your Google page up and going, do that. Don't try 5 new things at the same time and then burn out and say none of them worked. Really take one thing until you become absolutely proficient at it before you add something else. And I
Yeah.
think that's probably, people get very excited in the beginning, or they go to a conference and they come back and they're on fire and they want to do everything, and 90, 120, 180 days later, it's all, it's all forgotten. So I'd
Yeah.
rather take 1 or 2 things and really hone your craft and master that before adding something else to it.
I love that. And I do want to touch on something that is obviously very important as it relates to real estate, because real estate, as you say, at the end of the day, it's all about sales, right? But one thing is that every time that I've ever seen you talk or, walk through your process, you're never selling. And I think that it's important to mention that when you are passionate about what you do, you educate and you bring people into that community versus actually selling them as to like this and this, right? Because we've talked about how your approach is unique based on every individual, right, that comes through the funnel for you and that you work with. But at the end of the day, it's like your passion kind of over so that it doesn't become sales and it doesn't feel like sales anymore. And I think that that's also very important, because a lot of the times people think, oh, sales, there's a script, I have to, abide by the script, it has to be this way. But at the end of the day, no matter what industry you're in, when you're trying to get somebody to understand what you do and you're trying to, I wouldn't say win them over, but you're trying to gain their trust, the passion needs to be there and the sales needs to go out the window. Wouldn't you say so?
I would. I think some scripts are, as realtor, you always have the same objections, which
Yeah.
is the listing price, the commission, the
Yeah.
time of the listing. So I think it's important to know what to say so you're not just always
Yeah.
on figuring out as you go. But once you really are passionate about what you do and you really have a desire to be of service, and I don't mind saying I'm not a discount realtor. Not
Yeah.
that there's anything wrong with that. That's just not what I am. So I don't charge additional for all of the ancillary services that I offer as part of what I do. But if
Yes.
someone's looking for a discount broker, I'm not the one for them. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. And I'm comfortable having that conversation because I know what I bring to the table.
Yeah. And that's another point. I think that that's like a mindset also of your what's the word I'm looking for? It's
Value or
value, exactly, and what you know, as you said, that you can bring to the table, and not undercutting yourself, because
Mhm.
if you say no to that, something else will come through and it may be even bigger. So I think mindset is also important with any business you're in, to know that and you have that power, because and it's okay to say no because something better will come in through the door.
I absolutely 100% believe that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that you have to be comfortable with the person when you're doing something like you're hiring a marketing company, you're hiring a realtor.
Yep.
It's a longer term relationship, and you want to make sure that you have comfort, that you really believe in the person, that you feel that they're going to deliver what it is that you want, and that when you see their name on the phone, you're like excited to talk to them and collaborate. You're not like, oh my gosh, do I have to hear from her again? That relationship, I think, it has to feel good for both parties in order to be successful.
For sure. For sure. Ellen, this has been great. I mean, lastly, what are the three key things that you would want to kind of leave with?
I would say one would be, my husband says grit, like grit or persistence.
Yeah.
I know so many people that have become realtors that they're smarter than I am, they're more well educated than I am, they have a community of wealth and privilege that they grew up in that I didn't,
Yeah.
but I will stick with it and work harder and figure it out and really be there. And I've seen people come and go that I would have thought on the face of it would have been able to crush me in sales. But I
Yeah.
think my persistence and perseverance is huge. Being adaptable. The market that I came into in 1998 was a general real estate market, and in 2006, the market crashed.
Yep.
And I remember sitting there thinking, either I need to find a new career or I need to figure out what is selling and how do I sell it. And what
Yep.
was selling were REOs, foreclosures, and short sales. I got myself a coach, and within a year, I was a direct Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and HUD listing agent.
Yeah.
So you have to be adaptable. There's a great book about that, Who Moved My Cheese, which I recommend to everybody.
Yeah.
And the third thing is really look to be of service. Where can I add value? How can I help you? Lead with a serving heart, not looking for what you can get out of it, but what you can bring to the situation. And I think that the byproduct of that, you're going to get the sales, you're going to succeed, but looking, how can I problem solve? Let's figure this out together, and not looking at it as what can I get, but what can I give. So those would be my three big
I
takeaways.
love that. So just to recap, it's maintain your consistency, keep going, pivot, know when to pivot, know when to change, where the world is adapting every minute, every day. So know that you can adapt, and adapt fast and adapt quickly to make yourself competitive against others, and then know your value. So this is fantastic. I love it, Ellen. This has been truly great. And I love how we were able to connect the dots from a marketing standpoint and really support everything that you're doing, and to elevate, what you bring to the table from the standpoint of, you're not just a real estate agent, and it's how you support from end to end.
Thank you so much. And I guess that's why I've always connected with you so well, because I feel like you bring the same thing to what you do. You just get that feeling every time I see you and talk to you.
Yeah.
You want to be of service, you want to do a great job, you want to provide a real value. And that's different than someone that's looking to just sell you something.
Yeah, totally. Totally. I love it. Well, let us know, Ellen, where can people find you so I can tag everything also at the bottom?
Sure. So I'll send you all my social, but Ellen Mitchell, Probate Real Estate. I would love for you to check out my YouTube channel. That's where I've been spending a lot of my time, attention, and intention. And if anyone has any feedback, any questions, I'm always happy to collaborate. And It might sound funny to some people, but realtors are some of my best collaboration partners. I mean, like I don't sell commercial real estate, and so I refer all of that out. I stay in my own wheelhouse, and I have great collaborative relationships with realtors all around local, state, national, and international. So I'm always happy to be of service and connect with people wherever they are. And anything I can do to help support anybody, happy to do it.
Great. Well, I'll tag all the socials on the bottom so everybody can connect with you. And then, yeah, thank you again, Ellen. This has been wonderful.
Thank you.